Hello, podcast listeners. Look at this. We are in the technology. It is another daily podcast. Today is 3:30, so it's Monday. We decided since we're all working from remote, yes, that is Joe's house. That looks so boring. Just kidding. It's his office. So today we're going to talk about Netflix. That's all I got told. So let's get into it, Joe.
All right, so Netflix is getting a lot of attention for Tiger King, right? Have you watched it, Kyle? I
I
haven't seen it.
haven't I haven't watched it,
I haven't watched it
but
either.
literally my
All the memes are
family,
about
my
Tiger King.
friends, yeah,
Yeah,
are all sending me stuff. So
everybody's into it.
yeah,
I think the prevailing thought is that Netflix. This is great for Netflix, right? Because people are just going to stay at home and they're watching Netflix, and Tiger King is out. Uh, uh, but I have a little contrary view on how coronavirus and quarantine impact Netflix. And it's basically this: Netflix relies on new content coming out, right? Like, how often do you log into Netflix and there's something new being released? And if you pay attention to Netflix, they'll have season one of shows will be really strong. They'll spend infinity money on season one. But how many Netflix shows do you know have successful season twos that are nearly as big as their season ones?
yeah. I mean,
None.
not a
Stranger
lot.
Things.
Yeah,
Yeah, almost everything on Netflix is dead by season three. And it's because Netflix lives on big season ones and then, maybe some renewals and people sticking around for two and three.
I don't know. Stranger Things and House of Cards did pretty well.
Yep, those are probably the two exceptions, right? But if you
they
take the
double down
comparison
when they
to
have someone. Yeah,
HBO or network TV, where routinely shows go into seasons 4 and 5 and 6, Netflix doesn't really do that. So the problem for Netflix is if you need all of this production going on at once, and now, Nipa, you've worked in Hollywood. How long does it take to produce a typical TV show?
I mean, they're usually producing it live, like week to week,
Week
if
to
it's
week?
going on broadcast. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not really sure how Netflix and Amazon Prime do it. They've
Because
found
they
that
release it all at once.
right, and so they might actually produce it all at once too. But generally, it's like week to week.
Yeah. But Netflix or Amazon is going to be all at once, right? So you're probably talking 6 months of production, 10 months of production for the big ones.
Yeah, maybe. Well, not production. Production is the actual like filming time. They try to do that as quickly as possible.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
usually
sorry,
like
from
2 to 3
licensing the
months.
script through to having it up on streaming.
Yeah, they've gotten faster with it. I feel like it can take up to a year sometimes, depending
Yeah.
on how many effects and stuff are in it.
And no one in Hollywood is working right now, correct? Like production's pretty much at standstill.
Yes.
So I think the problem for Netflix is the longer this goes on, Netflix is going to have what it has in the can right now, but it's going to have a gap of 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, maybe as much as 2 months or 3 months where there's no new production in the pipeline. And for Netflix, that's a big problem because Netflix needs two things to happen. Like, one is it needs new subscribers. That's a big part of how it reports to Wall Street is subscription growth. And then number two, it has to reduce its churn. And so the way a lot of people use Netflix is they sign up for a few months when something they want is there. And then when something is gone, those people just unsubscribe and they go back and forth, or they just find someone who has an account and they share an account. The other problem Netflix has is, aside from losing the production capacity on these originals, they're also losing Friends in the Office and a couple other of their more viewed shows that they've had licensed for several years now. So what I think you might have coming for Netflix is this perfect storm of no new content, losing their beloved back catalog content, and at the same time for them, one of their biggest costs next to production is actually streaming, the actual hardware it takes to stream all of that HD video. And so you have people just pulling a ton of bandwidth off their servers that they have to pay for, coupled with they have this coming reduction probably in new subscribers and an increase in their churn rate. So I actually think this is pretty bad news for Netflix overall. If this was a 4-week thing, it's probably great for Netflix. As an 8-week or 10-week thing, it's probably bad for Netflix. So what I suspect is you could see Netflix's Q3 report be among the worst in their recent history. So their worst Q3 report, since maybe 2012, 2013.
And you don't think there's like any extensive backlog on like productions that are finishing up that are maybe in post-production that they could be rolling out?
So
Because I
I'm
mean,
sure they
those
have
people are
that.
working.
And
Yeah,
they may have to draw those out so there's more time between them. So instead of releasing 3 new shows in a weekend, you release 1 new show in a weekend.
yeah,
They probably have some in reserves, but they don't have 3 months of hit shows in reserve.
right.
They might have 4 or 5 weeks of shows in reserve because it's expensive. You don't want to put out all of this capital outlay and then keep a show or a movie in the can for several months. Like you do, there is a strategy about when you release stuff, but you don't just want to keep it in perpetuity in the
Yeah.
can. So, but also I think the volume Netflix customers are used to. You are used to logging onto Netflix and there's something new, Netflix
Mhm.
original all the time. Once a week, there's new stuff for you, and they're doing that across maybe 10 different audience types. They're constantly releasing new stuff for. If you cut off that pipeline, my guess is it chokes off pretty quickly. And then getting started, you're going to have this lag of whether it's 4 weeks or 6 weeks or 8 weeks or even 3 months before you can get that content pipeline scaled up again.
Well, and why can't they do the Netflix original thing and on the other side of it where they buy something and then brand it as their, I mean, is there
License
nothing
it.
for sale? Yeah, they
Great
license it.
question, because because I don't think they're the only ones in this position. I
Yeah.
think Amazon is in the same position. Now Amazon's stronger because it has other pieces of its business.
Hmm.
Disney Plus is probably in a better position because it has this relatively new deep catalog. It only started in November, so people haven't watched through everything on there yet. But then you have Peacock coming online, and HBO is trying to scale up.
Yeah,
And so
when's
you have,
Peacock coming online?
I think Peacock is supposed to be out late spring.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be an
So,
interesting thing that's gonna happen there.
yeah, and so you have competition for the other stuff where
Yeah.
Netflix might be the only buyer in the game. Now everybody's out looking for something to add.
Well, and like even when, because I watch like pretty much exclusively Prime, and so when I'm on Prime, like Showtime and HBO have been going like really hard for a while, but like more recently on like signing up through Amazon Prime, which you can do.
Yeah,
um and it's crazy like how many shows like those channels, so that's what I kind of see is like people kind of looking around after, like, if Netflix does go through this, looking around and being like, oh well, Showtime, like I never took them seriously, but it seems like they have some shows, and
that I haven't
HBO, like,
seen.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly, that I haven't seen because people are just gonna like just burn through stuff, like,
yeah,
um and so I feel like you're right, like the capital, like a lot of the space is going to be taken up by these other platforms, and Netflix is going to start losing more percentages to all these little like smaller platforms basically.
yeah. As people just kind of, they have a fixed budget. Probably that
Mm,
budget is even more fixed going forward than it is now.
mm,
And they'll cancel one and then hop to the other. And
yeah,
Netflix has the most to lose in that game, is what I would argue. Because people
yeah, I
aren't
mean
going to
they're,
cancel their Amazon Prime just because there's no new shows.
yeah, right,
People
and
are
Prime's
Amazon Prime
doing,
for the toilet paper.
and no one's, I mean, like, I'll be straight up honest, like people have Amazon and people have Netflix, usually don't watch a lot of like Amazon unless you like, I've been watching this much content for that long, like, so those shows like The Boys and like The Hunters, like all these shows, like The Boys is what, 2 years old, a year and a half old, I
Came
think it
out in
is.
like July 2019.
Okay, so I mean it's almost a year old, and so like they're running that show as if it was a new show. I thought it was a new show
Yeah.
when I saw it. Like that's because they're like putting up ads, like on banner ads on the Prime platform. And so I was like, okay, well, this is a new show, just like Hunters, and we're coming to realize like it's not. Because I never like looked for Amazon originals, to be honest. So
Now you're in on those Amazon originals, dude.
I know Sneaky Pete. That's my only one I've seen before then.
Uh,
Cut out. I think I cut out. One of us cut out.
I think Joe
yeah, you
froze.
did.
Well, Joe
Yeah,
froze. There's
I
been
keep
some,
getting an internet connection
Yeah.
wandering on
yeah,
my computer.
yeah, there's been some like little gaps. I wonder how that records. So we'll have to check that out.
We'll see.
I think it just probably glitches a little
Yeah.
bit, which I think our listeners are okay with. Hopefully.
Yeah.
It's like they're getting any better anywhere else at this point.
That's true. I mean, this is what everybody's dealing with.
This
Just
is
wait
like
till
what
we
CNN looks like now.
Holy smokes.
It's
All
the
right.
new aesthetic of our dystopian age.
Is there anything else on Netflix right now that people are like talking about besides Tiger King or whatever it is?
Love is Blind was the other
I
big
mean,
one
that's
for a while.
all I've seen the last.
Oh, Love is Blind is like the
What was the
dating
big one?
show.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, their reality TV shows, the cheerleading one. That was like the first couple,
Oh no.
like Love is Blind, the cheerleading one.
Yeah.
Then it became Tiger King. We'll see. But over the long term, I think they're going to have an issue.
Yeah.
All right. Any other closing points before we wrap up on this daily?
No, you keep cutting in and out. So
Yeah, I think
I think we're having Mike. We're gonna like introduce some new mics in the next couple of days. We maybe even get Matt Farrar back in here. I think Joe is frozen. I can't tell. No, he's not.
I'm
He's
here. I can see you live.
All right, so we'll be back tomorrow for another podcast, another daily. We'll see what we're gonna talk about.